Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Thought Leaders. I'm your host, Chris Shang. Today we have Keenan, who is CEO and president of a sales growth company. Thank you so much for joining us, man.
My pleasure, bro. My pleasure. Glad to be here.
Of course, man. Tell me a little bit about what you're working on right now. What sales growth company? What kind of companies you guys are working with? The whole nine.
Yeah, a sales growth company is a full service sales consulting and training firm. We work with sales organizations, your mid-tier to mid-tier to upper tier, averaging in size from 50 to, 5,000. Work with everything from GE Healthcare, down to middle size, trying to get to that next layer. We help across sales training and training them in gap selling, sales enablement. We just launched a new sales enablement framework called the Speed Model. So we touch all aspects of the revenue engine.
Okay.
Yeah, all aspects of the revenue engine. Mm-hmm.
Got it. Very cool. Yeah, we'd love to kind of just, get a better understanding of how you got into sales in the first place, right? Obviously, you've now finessed and created your own kind of programs and own philosophies and things like that. But, where did that originate? And was it something where it's like you were in elementary school hawking, baseball cards, or what did that look like for you in terms of how you got those skill sets?
Yeah, 100%. It started when I was a kid. I mean, I didn't know it at the time, but I mean, to be perfectly honest, it was two things, selling lemonade and candy. We'd stop at the store on the way and buy it for 10 cents. Jolly Rancher used to be these bars. They weren't the little things you choke on. These used to be these long, skinny bars. Stop there and get them like 10 for $1 and sell them in school for 25 cents until the teachers stop. To this day, it blows my mind. My kid tries doing that and the teacher's getting their grill. I'm like, no, my kid's going to sell something. They'll learn it. If the other kids want to buy it and she wants to sell it, as long as she's not interrupting the class, none of your fucking business, right? So I was always that way. But I think the second way that I really honed my skills as a salesperson, really unbeknownst to me, was getting out of trouble. So I would get in trouble for things. And I think that's really the core to gap selling. I'd get in trouble and I'd get punished or people would be mad. And I would start to ask, well, why are you so mad? And they would explain it. And I would start to understand their reasoning or logic why they were so upset. Now, obviously, I wasn't the type of kid who did things stupid like steal. I got that. I would just make stupid mistakes. And then I would just start to understand what their motivation was and what made them mad and what behavior they actually wanted me to exhibit and what their outcomes were. And I would have a really good knack at showing them by punishing me this way, doing this to me isn't going to get the outcome you want, right? And so it got me out of all kinds of punishments. And yeah, so I just learned how people think and how they act when they want to do things.
Yeah, interesting. Got it. And so then basically, seems like it's a skill set that was already kind of ingrained into you, combined with natural born curiosity to kind of understand people's behavioral patterns and why they are ultimately like interacting or communicating with you in perhaps a negative way, and then flipping the script. And once you've kind of like opened up that can to ask the questions, which probably caught them off guard as well, which I think like definitely appeals well to the customer process and the customer journey and discovery process.
It's understanding their motivations,
Yep.
Chris. It's really understanding people's motivations. And what people don't understand is everything they do is motivated, right? Whether it's conscious or subconscious, and it's motivated by something internal. Now, obviously, the big things like I got to go to the store to buy something. Well, okay, that's usually a high level, clear motivation. But even within that journey, I can show there are different motivations. Like I might have everything I need for a recipe, and I forgot one thing. If I'm cooking for my kids and I've cooked this recipe before, fuck it, I'm not going back to the store. I'm not motivated enough. If I'm cooking for a date or it's a special occasion, I will run to the store because it's not watch what I do here. It's not the recipe that matters, right? It's the impact or the impression that I give to my date. So I'm not even working on the dish. And most people don't get this. They think it's about the dish. They think it's about the food. No, this is about impressing. So they will run to the store. So we're always operating for motivation. And if we are good at understanding what people's motives are, even better than they are, then we're in the ability to influence their decisions. And that's what selling is all about, influencing decisions.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 1,000%, right? I think like a lot of it is, is trying to understand. I mean, the analogy is perfect. I think like why you go to the store. I can already hear like a lot of husbands too. That's like going to the store for a completely different reason, which is just to get out of the house, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But I mean, I think like I'm curious as to your thoughts, right? So like very clear of like how to utilize motivation and influence to get people to, I think like lower down their walls long enough for you to insert yourself in whatever that message is. I'm also curious to what you think about, you talk about touching on different parts of the revenue model around retention and churn, right? So it's like, obviously one part is like selling and getting something that's solving something for the greater good, or for whatever the ROI is, whether it's time or it's, or it's money or whatever it might be. But then it's also like, the retention of that value or the return on that value on a consistent basis that sometimes the salesperson doesn't have control over. How do you look at that, right? In terms of the mess, your ability to kind of influence, how do you incorporate that part of it where, are you choosing selectively what you are working with in terms of like the types of product or services, or are you trying to figure out a narrative that, ultimately you incorporate potentially what the pullbacks might be in the original conversation when you start talking to the customer prospect?
That was a lot.
That's a lot, but hopefully that makes it a little bit.
Yeah, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're asking about that transition between selling something and getting someone to buy it, and then how that thing you sold, that product or service, manifests itself within the organization, and particularly in SaaS, let's say, the ability to maintain, reduce churn, and keep people using it or keep people as customers over time, right? So whether that's coming back, or more importantly, if it's a recurring revenue type of thing, they don't leave, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people talk about things like that are sticky, and I get it. Things are sticky. Like I think HubSpot's a great example of sticky, right? We use HubSpot. We have so many landing pages with them. We have so much with them that they really have to screw up for us to go somewhere else because the workload is so high to switch. But the minute that drops, we'll look elsewhere. Not because I'm not blown away by HubSpot anymore. Like but the barrier to leaving is there. So I don't think they've done a great job at maintaining me as a customer, other than making me sticky, right? But the way it should be done, and the way gap selling supports this concept, and we talk about this a lot, and if I can find the time, I'm going to write a gap selling for customer success, because if you properly sell, you'll have sold, like I talked about, the person going to the store to get that one ingredient that's not that big of a deal, right? It could be a bay leaf for your freaking for your cacciatore. The cacciatore is probably going to taste the same without the bay leaf. But you have a big date, it's a first date, you're all excited, they're coming and you're making them a big meal. You want it to be perfect, right? Your outcome is not the cacciatore. Your outcome is how well that date goes. So if I'm selling you that bay leaf, or I'm trying to convince you to go to the store, if I get you to do it, then I'm going to make sure that once you come back, that the bay leaf is put in properly, that the right amount is put in, that it's served properly. I mean, I know I'm working a little thing, but I'm staying with you. And then as you serve it, I'm testing, hey, is she liking it, or is he liking it? Are they enjoying it? How is it going? And I'm going to make sure that your purchase from me is attached to your outcome. So take that back into a sales perspective. Salespeople sell a product. It's got these features, that feature, this feature, that feature. The buyer says, I love these features. I'm buying your product. And then what? Tell me this doesn't sound familiar. Then customer success takes it over and says, hey, after 3 months, we've noticed that you're not using this feature. You're not using this feature. You haven't used this feature in a while, and you're overusing this feature. Let's get you using these other features. We got to get you using the product more. We notice only 10 of your 30 people signed in. We notice these people not using it. That's what a QBR sounds right? If you flip the script and you find out, I don't know what the frick you're selling. You're selling a product that reduces the defect rate in your manufacturing line. Let's just go with that, right? And it's a software. It doesn't matter how it fucking works, right? And so I learned through proper selling, gap selling, that your defect rate right now is 1 in every 1,000. Your average widget that you make costs, you're a high-end thing, and it costs you, you sell them for $1,000 a peak. The average order is 1,000. So your average deal size is $1 million. So every time you fuck one of these things up, it's $1,000 you have to throw away, right? And you're making millions of these a year. So your loss to this defect rate is 75 million. I don't even know these numbers add up, but you get my point, right? So I sell this and then I find out why it was happening, right? And then I say, oh my God, our software fixes that. If you implement our software, these 4 or 5 things that are happening on the line, how the inventory is purchased, how it's tested, how it's then put into the line, how it goes through the line, like we test all that and we reduce your inventory churn from 1,000 to 200 or less, right? So 0.2%, 1% to 0.2, right? Now I pass that. They say, oh my God, you're the best. And they buy it. Now this shit goes over to customer success. Customer success sets them up, shows them how to use it. And now their quarterly business reviews are, hey, we notice that you're trying to go from 1,000 to 200. So the best way to use our product is do this, this, and this. Then the first QBR, we noticed we went from 1,000 to 950. So we've done a small gain, but we noticed that you didn't do this right. You didn't do this. You didn't incorporate this. You're not leveraging this process. We'd like you to try that. So can we call a meeting, get you guys together? We'll show you how to use it again. We'll bring someone out for you. Then they get them on board. They use it. They come back next quarter business. Guess what? We're now at 800. We're making fucking progress because they know why they bought. They're literally customer success, not against the product, but their customer success against the driver for the investment. Do you see what I'm saying? We don't sell that way, man. We don't fucking sell that way, and we don't customer success that way. And everybody wonders why we get lost and people churn. Bam.
Yeah, that's a great answer, man. I love the analogy and the example. I'm curious, I think like you definitely hit the nail on the head in terms of like where the problems are within an organization or where they could potentially be, right? When you're working with the company, do you do audits around that, like market fit and understanding where their customer success lives, and is that instrumental for you to work with the company? Because sometimes it may not be truly like a sale. Like you can come in and help them train on the gap selling, but if they have like a product leak of some sort and it's not delivering on that value or whatever's being promised not being realized for whatever reason, is that like a no-go? Is that a red flag for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a red flag. And there hasn't been a time yet that we felt we needed to go in and do a deep dive to determine if they had a product market fit or a product issue. The majority of our clients who have come to us or we reach out to that work with us have a mature or semi-mature product that has worked over time. We don't really get involved with startups very often. So they've got a mature product or mature product line. Now, sometimes I actually have one customer in mind right now that they've recognized that product they have is dying and they have to shift to a new one. So they've already recognized that. And that's part of the conversation of bringing us in, is to get the team to stop selling the old way with the old product and shift the mentality to the new product, right? So that piece is there. So yes, but if in our discovery, which are very, very deep, right? I sound like Trump. Very, very deep, right? They're very in depth. That's what I'm looking for. They're very in depth, quite in depth, rather in depth, right? And so we can ferret out if it's a product problem, and we'll tell them we can't help them. We believe it's a product problem, but we'll find that in the discovery.
Got it. And how much of this now, like, I mean, you mentioned either like pivoting to a different product or you're working with more mature companies that, again, maybe you're talking about like legacy products that maybe the markets have shifted. How much do you do in terms of like ICP analysis and really kind of like understanding, I know like with startups, we tend to focus on like a TAM, SAM, SUM because the product's not mature enough to sell to the full TAM. And so try to understand what that obtainable market looks like today based on where your product is on day one, for example, is going to be very different. So I'm curious if you think about that. Or
we take a very different tact, Chris, very different tact. And yes, we believe in ICP big time, right? But this might surprise you. We believe that ICP and product market fit and all of that stuff should be subjugated to the problems your product solves, right? And if you really think about how most people do TAM, they look at like the size of a company. I would challenge anybody listening, Chris, I would love to see if you can debunk this. But I have yet to come across a company who, in their analysis of where they should go after, is there a section of the problems that they solve, their product or service solves, and that whether or not that type of company has those problems. It just doesn't exist. They sort of assume that either these people use the product now, or they're in a certain space, they believe the product should be used, but they don't stop and say, wait, this is the problem we solve, right? And let's go back to my manufacturing. We solve the problem of high defect rates in complex manufacturing environments, right? So now think about how that changed your ICP. How we define a complex manufacturing process. How do we even define that? So, and notice now it's being driven by the problem. Why are we picking complex? Because we fix a problem, right? That only exists in these types of places. And why does that problem exist? We call this a pick. Well, that problem exists because in a complex environment, let's say I'm making this shit up on the fly, dude. So I'm doing my best here, right? Well, let's just say the materials they use, are very delicate. And so because the materials are very delicate, they can break easily or get twisted easily or deformed easily. So that's one. Another one is a complex process. There's multiple steps. Let's say there's millions of pieces of parts. So now they've defined what a complex environment is. See how that changes my ICP? Start with the problem. We don't start with TAM and all that shit. We're like, what fucking problem are you trying to solve? Why does that problem exist? What is the impact to your customers if that problem exists? Now I will talk to you about what your TAM is and why do you believe that these people have those problems. And once you do that, product market fit becomes an automatic. It's an automatic. Did that help, Chris?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of these things I have my own kind of like thought processes around it. I'm also to dive deeper on that around identifying the problem. How important is it to understand the pain threshold, right? So if we're using your manufacturing example, let's say, for example, the cost of like the percentage of defect, let's say, is like 2%. So they still have the problem of defect, but the cost of a widget of the defect is $5, right? And so it's nominal in terms of what the impact is to their bottom line. So in those cases, right, like their pain threshold for scaling this on like a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being an extreme pain, might be a 1 or 2. How are you thinking about that? Is that still something where you're trying to exacerbate the problem? No, not at all.
Okay. Now that being said, watch what I do here though.
Yeah.
And this is what salespeople mess up. And you're doing a great job. I like how you come at this. Their defects may only be 2% and a widget's only $5. Okay. Yeah. But then I would ask, what are the widgets for? How many widgets does your typical customer buy? What are the widgets used for? How does and let's say, so I'm asking all these questions. Let's find out at the end of the day, these widgets are used for it's oil and gas, and they're used for the hydraulics in a truck, right? So then I say, okay, so how many do they buy? And let's say they buy, this isn't going to map up. An average customer buys $1 million a year. Yep. Okay. And then I say, so if they buy $1 million a year and they get a 2% defect rate, where are they hurting the customer? And then I'll find out that it's hurting the customer to the tune of $1 million. Every time one of these things fuck up, they took down a truck or took down the oil pipe, or they took down this, that customer's fucking pissed. So I ask, so how often does that happen? Well, it happens that many times. So how long do you think your customer is going to stay with you if their pipeline goes down every 9 to 14 months because of your widget? See what I did right there? That's gap selling. That's what salespeople don't know how to do. That's why I get so passionate. That's why VPs of sales and CROs don't even get this, and they don't understand why they're losing deals. Nobody learns to sell in this way, to expand this concept out and stop looking at it like the pain. That's why we don't use pain here, because pain is too easy to get tripped up on. We literally use root cause, problem, impact. They all can have pain, right? If my defect rate is caused because I'm making this shit up. Oh, because it's super complex and we don't get oil in the machine fast enough and we can't track the weakness before it happens. I'm making that up, right? Those are all root causes. Some people say, oh, you can't track the problem before it happens. Oh, we can fix that. They start selling to that right away. Those three things add up to, we have a low defect rate, a high defect rate. Oh, we can fix it. We can fix a high defect rate. Then sometimes it goes into, well, the pain threshold is small. It's only 2%. The widget only costs $5. Oh, we lost the sale. They don't stop and say, well, wait, what's the widget used for? Who buys it? What are they using it for? What's the cost to them when they get one of them?
Yeah,
Whole different world.
yeah, I love that. I agree. So many people in the sales game don't. That's the nugget that I think is like part of this conversation. That's gold. When you come in and you're coaching these companies on gap selling and doing this whole nine. I find a lot of the times, especially at your level or at senior leadership levels, it's not even now knowing what the tools is to solve it, but it's like how you communicate and get the team buy-in based on the different personalities that are involved. How do you look at that? And in terms of when you're trying to get, you're coming in, you're working a 100-person sales team or whatever it might be. Everybody's gonna have a different level of buy-in, and so how do you think about that? Do you have ways where you've categorized personality types so you kind of know the different tactics of what their motivators are, speaking to them a little bit differently in terms of how to get them to start buying into your process?
That's a phenomenal question. Phenomenal question. And we do it on the back end. And
Yeah.
I'm sure some people listening, if you're a disc person or a personality person, you're going to say that you should do this up front. And I think there's some merit to it. But I find that the return on investment in those and trying to change my behavior because another person reacts differently to certain. So now I'm changing for them because they won't change for me. It just seems like just a circle so what we do is our whole entire training outside of the consulting piece, but the training of salespeople is very workshop and outcome based. So our goal isn't to impress upon the salesperson a methodology, it's instead to get a salesperson to see how that methodology can change the way they sell and can produce the results. So once we tell them what the methodology is in the training, then the rest of the training is literally try it. So we'll try it, we'll do some things, now the workshop do some things, now the workshop do some things, and we keep punching it over and over and over and over. Then when it's done, we have these retention programs where we watch them do it. We have call recording, role plays, pick development, deal reviews. We also have a software application, Note Analytics, where it's built in. This is where we get the greatest retention. And you want to talk about creating a hook. It is powerful. We put this on top of Salesforce. Think about Scratchpad or Win.ai on steroids. We make it easy as pumpkin pie to get into the CRM. Each field maps to the gap selling elements, right? So current state, future state, the gap, problem, impact, root cause, desired outcome, etc. Each has its own field. They get in those fields like that, super easy. Management now reviews those opportunities, looking for all the content that we taught them is critical to a deal in the training. So they can start to see, Chris has got it. Every time I look at he's got it. And we even allow them a score. They can say, Chris, your problem information, spot on, mostly met. Chris, your impact, it's missing. And we've learned if you don't have impact, the deals don't close very high. So what it is, it's a accountability feature, right? That holds them accountable. And here's the last piece that makes it so powerful. A lot of these reps don't like accountability. What we've learned though, is once this is in and deals start closing, based on management feedback, a score is created, and that score puts you in one of three buckets: red, yellow, or green. Not you, but your opportunity.
Yeah.
Over time, we will say, hey, Chris, you know what? When you can't get a deal past red, your win rate's only 9%. When you get it to yellow, it's 22%. But when it gets to green, your win rate is 80%. So rather than getting mad at us and not wanting to do the work, how about you work with me to get you to green? Because that's going to make you money. Now, here's the last crazy piece about it. Chris, no, I'm not going to do it. We track it by rep. So while you're not doing it and everything's in red and your win rate across the board is, I'm making 18%, you overlook at John over here and John's doing it. And John's overall win rate is now 40%, and he's got an 80% win rate in green. He gets 50% of his deals to green. You see what I'm doing? So now you're
Yep.
outed. You're completely outed. There's no place to hide in gap selling training if you go with us through the whole journey. No place to hide.
I love it. Yeah, I
I
love
know
that.
that was a lot, but I hope that helped.
Yeah, no, it's great, dude. I mean, I think it's like that accountability piece is so critical. I feel like a lot of times, you know, you're taking the argument out of it. You know, I mean, by presenting the data, it's hard to argue against data, right? So it's like,
Yep.
especially if you're putting that data in front of the entire group and people can see what's going on, and it's,
Yep.
you know, and the process works. So, I mean, I think, you know, you answered a lot of made a lot of great points, I think, in terms of like understanding what the psychological process is from, I think, like a human behavior, salesperson behavior specifically, and then solving for a lot of those things, which I think kind of comes full circle with what you're doing in terms of the gap selling and identifying, you know, present state, future state, and where the problem sits in between, and just taking that on every level. We're rounding up on time here. I could tell your passion. I can see, you know, how excited you are about what you do. What do you see for yourself, you know, in the, whether that's related back to sales growth company, but, you know, other passions, perhaps, writing a book on customer success, but what do you imagine in the next like couple of years for yourself? What are the things that kind of like keep you up, keep you excited, amped up, and wanting to press forward?
Just growing growing a sales growth company, growing gap selling, making it more and more ubiquitous out there. I believe that with the introduction of AI, it's going to begin to replace the product pitch. It's going to replace those rote, repeatable processes that too many salespeople are doing right now. And so the place for salespeople, or the place to differentiate, is the critical thinking aspect and the business acumen aspect of the sale. So that, going back to that one where you asked me about, it's only a $5 widget and it's only 1%. AI, we are a long way away from AI being able to say, okay, yeah, but wait, what are the widgets used for? Okay, and how much, and what machines, what do those machines do that widget is used for? How much revenue goes through those machines? Like, AI is so far away from that. The level of critical thinking there is next level. So I'm just excited that we can get more and more organizations to understand that selling is about helping. And you cannot help unless you're able to diagnose a proper problem and understand why that problem exists, and then have a prognosis for, if you don't solve that problem, prognosis, the impact to you is X. That's where it lies. So I'm excited about that. We are dropping a powerful new survey, I say every day in a week, but really soon, on buyer behavior. So I'm excited about that, what buyers want from salespeople. So we're going to do a lot more survey work or research work. So yeah, it's just, I'm working on a gap sell prospecting book. So that should come out hopefully by next year. So I just want everybody to be a gap seller. Bottom line, everybody be a gap seller.
Got it. One more question, because
Take your time.
I still feel all the excitement, but to drill down, what do you feel like? What do you feel like about yourself? Whether, you know, that you emotionally connect with to what you're doing day in, day out, like professionally, you know, you have all these great, I think, like accolades, and also like and tangible goals, right, that you're setting out. What are you gaining out of that personally, do you feel like?
I don't get anything out of the accolades, believe it or not.
Yeah.
The biggest rush for me, what I get out of it, is actually helping.
Mm.
Right. So, and I think my passion comes from, and it's misread by a lot of people.
Yeah.
My passion doesn't come from, let me phrase, I'll be positive. My passion comes from the fact that I want everybody to be successful. I want businesses to sell more. I want the CRO to crush his numbers. I want the head of sales at XYZ company. I want her to crush her goals. I want the average salesperson to crush their goals. I want the director to crush hers. Like, I want people to be successful. And when I see people doing things that don't make them successful, I'm like, right? It's probably the equivalent to the trainers on The Biggest Loser.
Mm.
Right? those trainers were so emotionally invested in those people losing that weight, right? That when they got it, they cried. They were like, oh my, like she got there, right? Or he got there. So it's similar to me, right? But at the same token, that you once, like Julian is one of the people that comes to mind most. When people weren't doing the work, she would get so mad. She gets so fucking mad. And she wasn't mad at them because she didn't like them. She was mad because she's like, you don't want to be fat anymore. You came here, right? Like you came here, you were sad, you were crying, your life sucks, and I'm telling you how to get there, and you're not doing it. What the fuck? Like that's the feeling. The same things. When I have these CROs tell me they're losing, $44 million and they're going to miss it, and the PE firm's going to be pissed at them, and then they come back to me and they say, well, we're going to hold off a little while. We think we're going to invest in a few tools over here. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, no, okay, have at it. As I watched your salespeople pitch, I watched demos crash and burn. You have an 18% win rate. Think about that, 18% win rate, Chris. How often do you see, I want you to test this when you get someone on here. Test this. I know I'm on a ramble with passion 30 minutes, but I love this shit. Go find every single CRO you know, or every single salesperson you know, or anybody, and say, what is your win rate? Right now. And less than 5% will know what it is. So say, well, it's kind of, no, I don't fucking want that. What is your win rate? Then say, what was your win rate a year ago? What are you on track for it to be next time? And they won't know. Now think about this. If I'm the CRO for an organization, besides, yes, I got to get the dollars, the one thing I'm focused on is what is my team's win rate? Because for every at bat they fuck up, that costs my company money to get the deal in, lost revenue on the way out. And why we think it's okay to hit 180 or 200 or 225. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day. They do, I think it was 40 something million, and they have a 20% win rate. So I said, what's your average deal size? And I think it was $50,000. So I said, how many leads are you getting? And when I did that backwards math, you should have seen their eye. That's how much you're letting out the door. And then I said, how much does it cost you to get all that? And he just sat there. Oh, so yeah, man. Like,
yeah, it's the measurement of efficiency. That's what it is. That number.
We're highly inefficient. We've learned to accept it.
Yeah,
we've learned to accept it.
It's like the inverse of a body fat percentage. It relates back to the Biggest Loser, right?
Yeah.
Very cool. I asked the question because obviously, I think your enthusiasm bleeds out, and I don't think you get there without being authentic. And that's where I was kind of poking at was, where does that authenticity come from, and what really motivates you, which, helping people, being of service, and helping people achieve their potential. So,
look, I say this all the time. Authenticity can be misinterpreted, especially when you have a big personality like mine. I literally had someone call one of our trainers and like, we want to work with you guys. We can't work with Keenan. He's too much. I'm like, that's fine. Like, perfectly okay with that. Celeste, Robin, Leah, like any of them will be great for you. But what I like to say to people is, and I have my daughter's got a big personality like mine, and she's struggling because, she's super popular, but some kids don't like her. And I'm like, look, baby, you're going to be a love-hate girl like Dad's a love-hate guy. You love me to death. You hate me. I said, but if your intentions are good, and your intensity and passion, all of that comes from positive and helping and making a difference, then don't worry about those other people. And this is what I say in a lot of trainings. I ask the women to raise the hand, and I say, interesting way to end, Chris. You can do what you want with this, right? But I asked the women to raise the hand. I said, ladies, how many of you would be okay if a strange man grabbed you inappropriately on the street, put their hands on you in any way, right? None of them raised their hand. So it's completely inappropriate. Fucking some women, they're spicy. Are you fucking kidding me? Like they chime in, like, hell no. I said, great. I said, now I want you to imagine you're walking down the street, you got your headphones on, you're on your phone, you're not paying attention, you're about to step into traffic. And some man grabs you to pull you back. And even when he grabs you, he accidentally touches inappropriate spots or grabs you in inappropriate spots, so yanks you back onto the fucking street. How many of you are mad that he did that? No hands go up. And I say, why? Because he was helping me. He was helping me. So when you're helping somebody, even if what you do is not perfect, and it could be perceived in other situations as offensive or not right, people give you a pass because they recognize you're trying to help. So that's how I move through life and not worry about it, because I know inside I'm trying to make a difference. And if that upsets you, that's on you, not me, because I'm in this for you. I'm not in it for me.
We'll end it there. That's a great way, man. That was awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for taking the time, sharing your energy, sharing your passion, and just all the anecdotes. Lots of great nuggets.
My pleasure, baby. Thanks for having me.
Of course.